someone just needs to go over there and just, talk some sense into him. Like, he's just, I get, like, maybe you don't want to play somewhere, but he's just taken it way too far.
What's a good word, everyone? Welcome back to the second installment of Secure the Bags NBA OT. In this OT, we're going to be diving into some of the most controversial topics currently unfolding in the NBA. As well as this, we'll be discussing the Chicago Bulls and how their current lineup impacts their upcoming season. Let's tip off the first quarter with COVID and its effects on the league, mainly players' refusals of vaccination. Boys, what do we think? What do we think about the refusal of vaccinations for some players? I mean, personally, I know Kyrie, he's been very vocal about what he thinks about getting the vaccine, and it's probably going to hurt the Nets' chances with him not getting the vaccine. I think he's not allowed to play in Brooklyn, so he can't play half the season, from my understanding.
Well, it's interesting because it's the New York rule, New York State, that you're not able to play indoor venues or even trade indoor facilities unless you're fully vaccinated. So it's interesting. Like, the NBA have done pretty well at this, I reckon, because there's about 450 players in the NBA, about 15 guys every team, give or take. And the NBA's got about less than 20 guys that haven't been vaccinated. So I think overall they've done pretty well. Some of them are Ben Simmons, Jonathan Isaac, Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Andrew Wiggins did turnarounds. But I think the big thing is, obviously, you don't want to get too political and, making someone get stabbed in the arm to do their job is kind of obviously not what really this comes down to. And I mean, the whole world's got this, but I mean, in my opinion, it's going to come down to the states that enforce it, and a lot of the Democrat states rather than the Republican states, if you really want to get technical. So it's going to be a lot more free flowing and relaxed, in states like Texas. So with the Rockets and the Mavericks and all that and the Spurs, but it's going to be a lot more technical in California and things like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, these are government laws and state governor laws. So the NBA is not going to get involved. They're just following the laws. But yeah, I reckon people will trade, because if you can't play away games, like I know Brooklyn was saying that, we don't want Kyrie Irving, but so you don't have to pay him. You have to pay him for games in Brooklyn, but they were saying they didn't want to play him in away games. So you have to pay for that, because you don't have, you can pay. You can play other games. So it's going to be interesting what clubs do. But yeah, it's a big mess, but every league's dealing with it.
That's exactly right. I saw an article earlier today. It was Adam Silver come out and saying that this COVID-19 vaccination saga with Kyrie Irving is not the league's issue, and that's just alluding to what you said there. That's more a state problem. I mean, Cody, you got any thoughts on this?
I look at it as it's, me and you have to get one to go to our job, so it's sort of the same thing. If he wants to go to work, he's going to have to get it, and obviously financially it probably is not going to worry him, but I feel like Kyrie, being the passionate guy he is, he's probably going to get to the stage where I feel like he'll just give in because he'll just want to go play basketball.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, he I guess at the end of the day, he is a basketball player. It is his job, and he's got to understand that he is standing up for people should get to choose what gets put in their bodies, but at the same time, the NBA is a business, and they have their things they need to meet, and their team have their demands. So he sort of has to meet that, or he's gonna get shipped off. I mean, I'm gonna make a pretty hot call right now. I reckon Kyrie's gonna be out of the league in like 3 years, 2 or 3 years, because I I used to love him as a player. Like he was one of my favorite players when I was younger. But I think he's just gone mentally now. Like there's some issues that he has. I don't know. He does a lot of good, but then there's some stuff like this where you just like, what's he going on about? But anyway,
yeah, he's definitely a little bit off at the fairies at the moment, I think.
Yeah,
living in fantasy land.
Yeah,
it's actually interesting you say that, because I mean, you're without of the league, which probably isn't the worst thing, but certainly his views over the last 18 months on things external to COVID and other things aren't helping his chances. But I mean, it'll be interesting, no doubt, ability-wise, He's obviously can do it in the league. He's an all-star and obviously everything, and he can compete. But as we know, sports is, as you said, more than it's just a business, but it's also off-field stuff. And if guys don't want to play with you, you're not going to last. It's happened numerous times in a bunch of sports before, and it'll happen again. So that's really up to Kyrie and the choice, and we'll see what if he locks in mentally and wants to play. He can average 20 points and be an all-star, but if he wants, he'll be out of the league.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, like you said before, he's done some great things over the last 18 months with all of his activisms for Black Lives Matter. And then you look at that and you contrast that to some of the stuff. I know reports come out when he was at the Celtics that he was not very, very good in the locker room, and he was just just not a leadership figure that you would want in your locker room. I mean, like, yeah, he does some good stuff off the court, but like out of basketball, but stuff off the court sort of outweighs some of it as well with his presence, especially to younger generations. Okay, so that's been a great topic to talk about. It's been very interesting to follow that over the last couple of weeks and to see if Kyrie will eventually get vaccination. I know a few players have been pushing him on his live streams on Instagram to get him to do it and to do his media sessions and stuff like that. So I guess we'll have to keep watching to find out what happens to the rest of this saga. So let's move into the second quarter of this episode, and some things are a little different this year. The most notable being the changes to the foul rule. I mean, it was evident for one of the first games of the preseason. Steph Curry, he's on the 3-point line, does a little step back, jumps into the defender. I forgot who the defender was, and was shocked that he didn't get the foul for it. And so was Steve Kerr. I mean, boys, Cody, do you want to start us off with this rule change and what do you think about it?
I feel like probably for the sport, it's good. Like, it's, like, I get that getting the defender up in the air is probably, takes a lot of talent, but when you're doing it and they're not even really attempting a shot, you're just looking for the foul. It reminds you of like something like soccer where they go down for no reason kind of thing. So I feel like it's probably a good thing for the league. I feel like you'll see a lot of players struggle. I feel like your players like Trae Young they'll go from getting 10, 12 fouls, like trips the line a game, back to, probably 3 to 4. I feel like people like Curry, though, they played sort of before it. They'll adapt their game. He's still going to score 50 a night, man. Like, the form he's in now is just ridiculous. So if I was him, I wouldn't be worried. But yeah, like I said, players like Trae Young, Harden he'll still knock him back. I'm not too worried about him. But yeah, you'll see a lot of players struggle, I believe.
Yeah. I just looked up then, and the player that I was looking for before was Nasir Little, who Steph Curry tried to draw a foul on. But yeah, I 100% agree with you with James Harden as well. He's proven year in, year out that he can score with some of the best of them in the league. But it does beg the question of how many times he gets sent to the foul line and all that questionable step back that he has, and how many fouls he draws off that to how many points he gets. I mean, you can see him he's averaged from 30 points a game to drop down to like 20, 24 points a game with this rule change. I mean, Luke, any thoughts on that? Any particular player you think it might affect more than others?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were the big ones. I had Trae and Harden. I think someone like Alexander Walker or Gilgeous Alexander, just guys that just bomb shots. But the thing is, I like that they've adjusted to the foul rule, but I cannot believe the NBA haven't done anything to stop a fast break foul. I mean, we watch here in pretty much, I shouldn't just say here, everything. So you got international ball, you got fever ball, everything. If a guy's on the run in a one-on-one, you have to make a play on the ball. If you don't, it's an unsportsmanlike foul, which is 2 shots in possession. For some reason, in the NBA, you're allowed to grab a guy from behind without playing the ball. I have no idea why. It does nothing. It slows the play down. What is the point of doing it? I don't like. No one likes the rule, and they do a full foul review, which the fouls need to come. But in my opinion, that's not the biggest issue in the NBA. The biggest issue is the fouls. You got to stop fast break fouls. No one wants that.
I mean, like some fast break fouls, you can put players in dangerous situations as well, depending on how fast they go into the basket and if they're in the air, if they're taken off. I mean, it was pretty evident some of the NBA players that were playing in the recent Tokyo Olympics how they adjusted. That we saw a few unsportsmanlike fouls there for fouls that they thought were just common fouls in the NBA, and you see that contrast, that quality contrast between the two different rule sets as well. I mean, yeah, especially with like when we talk about this this foul rule now being implemented in there, it's sort of no longer, the referees are looking that they're no longer going to reward like abnormal moves, and they're not going to award like foul hunting stars like what you guys were saying before, you know, the James Hart, the Trey Youngs and all those guys. So yeah, it's very interesting to see what's happening with that, and I think it's about time the league does something to do that, does something to change that, because as we've seen in previous years, it's just so easy for players. Like I remember they implemented a rule for Kevin Durant specifically for he sort of did that like the rip through and he caught defenders' arms in between his like rip through, and that was like his way of getting into the basket. So it's good to see the NBA is changing some rules to sort of make the game a lot better to watch and a lot easier to play, I guess.
But yeah,
I feel like
as well, we talk about how big the fast breaks are and how quick the pace of the NBA is. You fix that fast break rule foul, and you don't make people foul automatically or unsportsmanlike foul for not playing the ball, and you make the game so much more enjoyable. Like it seriously, instantly, it would make it so much more enjoyable. It's not even. I still don't know why they haven't done that.
Yeah. And what were you going to say there, Cody?
I just feel like for some reason the NBA always seem pretty good with, you know, their rule changes and their new ideas. Like they're always a step in the right direction. You know, I think in that sense they're very far ahead of most sports around the world. You know, most sports are stuck in their ways still, you know, playing off the rules that were 100 years ago, where NBA is always sort of constantly trying to improve. So I feel like if they've done the research and they've made the call to make a rule change, I feel like it's probably a step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, the league's been in safe hands with Adam Silver for the past few years, so we know that he's done some good things for the league since he's become commissioner, and he's going to continue to do some good things for the league, especially in these rule changes and any other aspects around playing. So, fine, we go into our third quarter, which is all about the Bulls, boys. I mean, the Bulls preseason. I know it's only preseason, 4-0 in the preseason so far. They brought in some new additions. We talked about it in the last NBA OT, me and Luke. We had DeMar DeRozan, we had Lonzo Ball, we had Alex Caruso. Those are some of the bigger names. I think Troy Brown Jr. was in this offseason as well. So they had some guys that can come in and definitely affect how they play and possibly push them into playoff contention. I mean, boys, what do we think of the Bulls? You reckon they're going to make the 8 this year, or where do you reckon they're going to place?
I reckon I'm going sort of the more the bottom of the 8.
Yeah,
I feel like probably a very enjoyable team to watch. I feel like it's going to be like a more of a Showtime sort of team. I feel like they're going to be good. It really depends on, you know, does Lonzo come out and have like a ridiculous breakout year this year? Like he's always been constantly improving, but does he, with these people around him, does he come out and have a mega year? You know, we know Zach LaVine's going to show up, but do having these other players with a fair bit of talent on the team, does that take away the ball out of his hands? Does he then suffer? Like it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. I feel like it's going to turn out good, but yeah, like I said, interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just from what I've seen so far, especially in terms of Lonzo Ball and his career progression through the NBA. I mean, we look at when he first come into the league, he was playing for the Lakers. his 3-point percentage was below average. He was shooting with one of the worst forms I've ever seen in my life. And now look, you fast forward to 2021 and he's shooting over 40% from three, and he's fixed his shot form completely. And we've seen some Showtime Bulls in the preseason games. I mean, I think it was fast break. Lonzo Ball passed to Zach LaVine and nice alley-oop dunk, and seeing DeMar DeRozan demand the floor and demand the ball, like sort of show his veteran experience on the court a bit more than what he has in some of his other teams, which is great to see. I mean, he's always a guy that you want to have on your team. I know Luke has some thoughts about DeMar DeRozan and how he fits into teams. So, Luke, do you want to give us some of those thoughts?
Of course, and I mean, we went detail on the Bulls and DeMar in the last one, and I'll just repeat what I said there again because it's still obviously applicable. But DeMar's a guy you want around your team culture. I mean, DeMar himself will get the Bulls to the 8. With the Bulls, I think Cody sums it up really well. I think there'll be growing pains, and realistically, they're not going to be a team that excels. They'll have moments. They'll probably have injuries. You always talk about Lonzo improving. Realistically, he hasn't been healthy for long enough times in his career. He's had that knee injury constantly and things like that. So, yeah, there'll be growing pains and there'll be a transition. But I think with DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic and the guys they're building, Kobe White will be better. So the guys that they've got there will improve. Whether that is enough to get to the 8, they'll see between 6 and 8. I don't know where, but they will see. And more importantly, they'll bring a bit of passion, and they'll bring a bit of flair to Chicago, which I think a big city like that's missed for a few years. So for the league, it's good to see the Chicagos and the New Yorks and things back in track. Big teams in the East. So yeah, I'll be watching Chicago. Though I think they'll surprise a few people. People are sleeping on them, but yeah, DeMar will get them into the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly right. I mean, you mentioned the Knicks and the Bulls. Some big franchises in the 80s, 90s. They've had some long-lasting history on the NBA. Some of their teams have produced some great players, from Patrick Ewing from the Knicks to Michael Jordan and the Bulls bunch that went through those 6 championships. I mean, those guys are undeniably some of the greats to come from the NBA, and we can see the making of a Showtime Chicago Bulls team that could play somewhere between 6 and 8. I agree. Looking at some of the teams that are in the East at the moment, I mean, they've got the Bulls have got the Bucks around them. They've got the Pistons around them. They've got the Cavs. I see them. They're placing above Pistons easily. They're placing above the Cavs. They're going to have problems with the 76ers. But then you look at some of the other teams like the Hornets. Those are going to be some of the crucial games that they need to win, because the Hornets and the Bulls are around the same. I would say around the same level.
That's the spot.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see that clash between those teams around, those 7th, 8th, 9th spots, those late playoff spots and those playing positions, because those can be really beneficial to some teams. I mean, it's the little games like those, or the games like those you have to win. Like, it's all well and good to go 20-0, 30-0, but I heard someone talk recently. One of the sports analysts was saying it's better to it wasn't one of the NBA sports analysts. It was the EPL manager for Everton this year. He was saying that he believes it's better to win the games against teams that have similar interests to you, rather than teams that are either at the top of the table or at the bottom of the table. Like, say, if you're aiming for mid-table, or you're aiming for that top 8 or top 8 spot, or the 8, 7, 6, it's better to win those games, or they're more crucial to win those games against those teams, because those are going to be the teams at the end of the day you're going to have to fight against to get those spots. So you really see how your players develop and how you are compared to those teams. So
and just on that, like you say, like, if you're aiming for 6, 7, 8 sort of spot, and I agree with the Everton manager or whatever he was. It was You think about it, it's if you win the game, that's points you're getting and points they're not getting.
Exactly.
So it's not only you sort of leapfrogging them, you sort of gapping them at the same time. And And just on that, I feel like this over the off season, a lot of the trades haven't been towards the bigger teams. I feel like it's the 6, 7, 8s that have acquired, not big names, but they've acquired players that you're going, oh, that's going to be a pretty good team. So I feel like probably next year or when the season starts, I feel like it's going to be real competitive, like pretty much from the 1 to the 8. Like everyone's going to be pretty on a similar level, I believe.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially in the East. I mean, you always know that the West typically have their top 8 set. Yeah, there's teams that stand out from other teams in the West. I mean, you look at the Blazers, you look at the Mavericks, and you compare them to teams like the Timberwolves. You see some of those are definitely going to make the 8, and some of them not quite as much. You think, oh, they might make the 8, they might not. It's really up to the chances and how they play. But the East, it's always been very close. You never know what teams are gonna get into those final spots. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see the clashes between some teams in the East this year and see who comes out into the finals. So finally, speaking of finals, we move to our final segment, or the fourth quarter of this episode, if you will. And this is reserved for the most controversial topic in the NBA at the moment, Ben Simmons. Cody, I know you're a Ben Simmons fan, so do you want to just kick it off? I mean, you start and we'll follow your lead. What are your thoughts on Ben Simmons? Thoughts on what's happening at the moment, and what you think about it?
Oh, well, as you know, Matt, man, you always chat about this. You're always winding me up. And, I don't know. Someone just needs to go over there and just, talk some sense into him. Like, he's just, I get, like, maybe you don't want to play somewhere, but he's just taken it way too far. Like, and now he's back there, and it's, yeah, like I said, we were talking about it before, and it's, you know, he's finally got back to Philadelphia, and me being a Philly fan, I've got a bit of a hope. Maybe everything's sorted. And you watch a video of him today in practice, and he's got a phone in his pocket, man. Like what? I don't know where he's at mentally, but it's not looking good, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely looked like he's checked out of the 76ers. I mean, Doc Rivers has expressed how much he wants Ben Simmons to play this year and how he thinks they have a good chance of going a long distance into the playoffs this year. So looking at a video this morning, I was very surprised to see, or I wasn't really too surprised, but I was surprised the video come out of the whole team was getting together for a team huddle, team chant towards the end of the training session. You see Ben Simmons in the background just shooting the basketball to himself, not even engaging in the team. And then photos come out, like he said, with the phone in his pocket. I mean, at that point, you got to think to yourself, you've got a superstar player like Ben Simmons there. I think it was the youngest All-Star. But you look at him and you look at the way he's acting now, and you think to yourself, is that going to jeopardize my team? Is that going to jeopardize how I coach? And what's going to happen throughout the season with him? Like, is he going to turn into some games he'll play amazing, and some games he just will mentally check out like he did in training today? Like, there's just these certain aspects that we've got to take into consideration with him as well. And I think there's the biggest thing about his game in question is his ability to shoot. I mean, we've seen big improvements. I mentioned earlier, like Lonzo Ball, he's improved his shooting form, his shooting percentages, and we've seen players do it before. And I think the first Ben Simmons coming out of college in rookie year, he was shooting, I think, 69% from the free throw line, and then you contrast that to his playoffs last year, and yeah, I don't know what's going on with the man at this point in time. I mean, Luke, what do you think? What do you think's going on with him?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, realistically, I think Ben Simmons is going to be one of the only guys that is an all-star that fans actually don't want him. Because as I've said to you, Matt, lots of times, him and Embiid don't get on. They never admit it publicly, but it's so obvious with the way they play. Embiid doesn't want him. And Embiid, as much as Simmons thinks Embiid is the guy that runs the Sixers, realistically, he's the guy that's going to get him. Simmons can't get him to the championship because, and also, the fans hate him after what he did when he turned down that dunk to Thibault.
Yeah.
last year in the playoffs, which obviously is a terrible moment. Sorry, Cody, as a Philly fan, but it does need to be addressed because it was a massive moment, and it adds to this. But I mean, with Simmons, I mean, you guys covered it, but where do you start? I mean, the guy, he sold his house and he was leaving. Then he was getting fined like about something like 220,000 a game or something. So he turns up to Philly. Turns up, he's not vaccinated, so he can't play, and he didn't even tell anyone he was going. He just literally turned up to the arena by himself and just went in, and then so he can't play. So it's just like, I don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, everyone's saying you put him to New York and he's something for Kyrie Irving because could a change of scenery help both those players? Yes, but they're both players with baggage. They're two great Australians, even though Kyrie's barely Australian, but I'll say it anyway. But so there's two guys there, but honestly, I've got no idea what's going to happen. I think Simmons I think he'll stay at the Sixers, but I don't think he'll play for a while because the Sixers want him, the staff want him, some of the players want him, the fans don't mentally, he doesn't. And when someone's not mentally there, they're not going to play well. And Philly are going to struggle to even make the playoffs, I believe, if this continues, because the team's going to be torn. You're going to have people like Thibault that support Simmons, and then you're going to have the Embiids and the Danny Greens that just want to move on.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Embiid in the media. I think it was the media days. There was something mentioned about Ben Simmons to Embiid. I don't remember exactly what it was, and he sort of like laughed it off and just made a joke about it, like, "Oh yeah, but like he's not going to come back, or he's going to come back, or he's just like, yeah, whatever." So you can tell that Embiid's standpoint on this issue, he's not really phased if he comes back or not, because he knows he's got the keys to that Philly team, and he's sort of their star player as much as people want to say it's a two-pronged team. Sorry, Cody. Embiid's definitely the star of that team.
It's Embiid.
You look at such things like you mentioned before. I mean, he turned down a dunk in the playoffs against arguably the worst defender in the league, Trae Young, like a wide open dunk. And that just gives you an insight into what he's thinking at the moment, like what's going on mentally.
Yeah, I feel like as a Philly fan, obviously I watch every game and all that sort of stuff, and I feel like he's always had something in the back of his mind, or there's something there, because I know I'm a Ben Simmons supporter, so I'm gonna like back him, and I feel like I believe he can shoot, and I believe all these people say he can't shoot, he can't do this. I feel like he can. He just doesn't have the mental capability or the mental confidence to just go and do it. And like we keep saying, I feel like that mentality is not going to get you anywhere. I honestly believe he could probably be one of the best players in the league by far if he mentally put his mind to, all right, this is what I got to do. Like you said, you got Lonzo who come into the league, practically couldn't shoot a three any better than I could, and I'm useless.
No.
And all of a sudden he's got this killer form and he's shooting ridiculously high percentages. And if someone like that can do it, I feel like someone as skillful and as good at basketball as Ben Simmons actually is, he can do it too. Like it's not that hard. It is hard, but for someone getting paid how much, surely you'd figure it out.
Roughly like 200 million Australian dollars, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that just like, I think that adds to what I was going to add on to what you just said. So Ben Simmons, when he has the capability to develop that jump shot, and like you saw in the first couple years of his career, he had comparisons to LeBron James. Like he was going to be the next LeBron. His passing is out of this world. He's got the size and build of LeBron as a point guard. And he sees the game in a different way. I mean, he's one of the top defenders in the NBA, one of the premier like guard defenders or / power forward, whichever position he plays on a given night. I mean, who knows these days? But yeah, I think he's got that big contract. He's played well enough to get that big contract, and then he's sort of mentally been like, okay, I'm set now. This is guaranteed money for me. Like, I can do what I want now, basically, and still get paid this money. But I mean, you look at him missing missing trainings, missing games, missing preseason games, getting fined almost like $250,000 a game or a training session. That adds up over time. Like that's not a small amount in comparison to us. That's not a small amount for us, but I mean to him that's like a drop in the ocean for him. But I guess we just got to look forward to see if he's going to leave Philly, and if he does, it might happen mid-season. Doc Rivers has mentioned that he won't trade Ben Simmons unless there's a tractable trade that's come up. And what teams do you guys reckon we can see a trade package forming for Ben Simmons? I know I've heard stuff about the Warriors. I've heard stuff about the Timberwolves. Just off the top of your head, boys, what teams do you guys reckon? What pieces do you reckon they have? And yeah, give us what you think.
Brooklyn's the obvious one because Kyrie, yeah. And it's not going to work because Simmons isn't vaccinated either, but that's the obvious one. I just think it's hard that you mentioned the trade offer. The first trade offer that was ever mentioned was the Indiana Pacers that offered a first rounder and Malcolm Brogdon for Ben Simmons. And I don't even know why you'd bother offering that. That's going to be rejected before you even pick up the phone. I don't know why you'd even bother.
I mean, there's that old saying, you can't win if you're not in the race. So,
like I said to you, Matt. I called this. You know what? 2 months ago,
yeah,
and I said to you, I reckon he's going to come back. I reckon he's going to end up playing. He's going to be first half of the season Ben Simmons like he is every year. He's pretty good. He's triple-double every couple nights. Everyone's going, oh, shit, Ben Simmons is good this year. He'll play like that till the All-Star break. They'll trade him because he'll have a bit of value then. And then he'll just go back to normal Ben Simmons where he's, triple singles.
Yeah, definitely. I
Where will
agree
he
with
go
that.
when they trade him at All-Star break?
It really, in my opinion, it depends where other teams are at the All-Star break. If you got Portland and they're not even in the 8, you might see Dame just demand out. At the moment, he's sticking with them, but how much longer can you do it to yourself, man? How do you score 60 points in a playoff game and still lose?
Yeah, one of the most.
You got Beal's a bit icy at the Wizards, so
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of slots that might open up. I mean, Dame's been with Portland for ages. He was drafted there when he came out of Weaver State. So, I mean, he's been there for years and he has given everything to the club, but it's a bit like Kemba at Charlotte. There's only so much you can give when the guy's going to be like, no, I'm out, which is a good point. So we'll see. Interesting times ahead for sure. But I think if Simmons really wants it, Cody, with that trade value and how much he gets his value up, we'll see what happens. There'll be some interesting viewing for
He's going to have to show up.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is one trade that it's a bit out of left field, but I don't see it being ruled out as a possible trade. Ben Simmons going to the Warriors.
Honestly, I look at it and it's a good fit, man.
I think to myself, the Warriors can offer. They got Jordan Poole. They've got Andrew Wiggins, and then chuck a couple first-round picks, and even if they have to chuck in an end of the bench player as well for Simmons, and I guess Furkan Korkmaz or someone else from the 76ers that's further down the bench, like that. I reckon that'd be pretty even trade, and both teams I guess would be benefiting if Ben Simmons doesn't want to be there. It gets him out of there and brings some fresh faces like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, who's been having a good preseason so far and looks like he's going to have a good season in the NBA this year.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it probably would be a good trade. A couple of the younger, fresh faces who probably do have that mentality that Simmons doesn't have, where they know, all right, Embiid's the star, and we just got to play around him and make it work. And I feel like the Warriors would probably benefit from having Simmons there as well. Imagine Simmons and Curry on a pick and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And
buckets for sure, man.
Add Clay Thompson in there as well, coming back from his injury. We've got James Wiseman down below as well, and then I guess you'd find someone to play that small forward position. They'd probably rely on Draymond Green and Ben Simmons to switch between those 3 and 4.
To switch it through,
yeah. So, I mean, and going back to what you previously mentioned, those young guys that have that determination, have that mindset. I mean, Philly has a good point guard like that in Tyrese Maxey, who we saw glimpses of how good he can be in the league last year. And I mean, that could be just the thing he needs to break out this season as well. But I guess we'll have to wait and find out for the rest of the season. I mean, you boys got any final thoughts about anything in particular? Any shout outs? Any hot takes?
I don't know if that trade Simmons to the Warriors. I don't know if I'm the Warriors. I don't know if I like that. I just think the way the Warriors are and what they'd have to give up. I think Steph and Clay run the team, and I mean we were talking about culture, and Simmons obviously isn't a culture guy because of all this. And the Warriors, even though they might not be at the top, but they bleed success. And what Steve Kerr's done is even now that they might not be as good, he's kept a core together of guys who know how to win. So I don't know if you'd want to bring it in. I don't know if the Warriors would want Simmons. Simmons wants to go there, but I don't know if it's vice versa. But yeah, that's my hot take. I don't think if I'm a Warriors or even in the exec, I don't think I'll pull on that trade.
Yeah, that's a interesting hot take. I mean, I can see your point of view, and I can see the other side of the stick as well on that viewpoint. So yeah, I mean, we've got to sit back and see. We can talk about this as much as we want, but at the end of the day, it's what comes to fruition during the season, or if it eventually comes to fruition during the season. Who knows? We might see Ben Simmons stick out the whole year at Philly. But
all I hope is he just, I just don't want him to piss his career out the wall, man. Like it's, it's sitting there in his hands for the taking, and at the moment he's just throwing it away.
Yeah, I mean, if he's growing up in Australia, someone's just got to go. A true blue Australian's just got to go over to him and tell him to pull his head in, because
he's really not acting Australian, is he?
No, I mean, you
get me on a plane.
Yeah, all three of us. I mean, you're doing something that most people try to do their whole lives and don't succeed, and then you're one of the best in the league to do it as well, and you're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money. So yeah, someone's just got to tell him, put whatever you're feeling aside and go out there and play. But I guess that's all we've got time for, guys. Thanks. Thank you all for joining us, and look out for the next episode where we share our top 8 seedings and award predictions for the season. So if you love NBA and you love the content we create, make sure you give us a like, a follow, subscribe, comment down on the video any of your thoughts. We'll be happy to hear them, and share it with all your friends. And that's game. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Cheers.
Thank you.